Rodrigo Silva. Rodrigo will work in the Sportology Lab's specially designed miniature construction site, where he will have just 8 weeks to build a 14-foot-tall steel-reinforced spectator stand. To accurately replicate real-world conditions, he will work 12-hour shifts with no breaks, sleeping each night in a cramped and poorly ventilated dormitory room. We also cranked the temperature in the lab up to 105 degrees Fahrenheit to simulate Rio's hot summer months. Are you ready? Okay, go! Rodrigo started strongly, laying the concrete foundation in under 10 hours, while also swatting away the hundreds of mosquitoes that we released inside the test area. The average person would succumb to muscle fatigue after carrying dozens of 90-pound cement bags. But since Rodrigo relies on his wages to provide rent and food for his family in Sao Paulo, he maintained a steady pace of 10 cement bags per hour. But by the time Rodrigo completed the steel support structure, the construction's grueling physical demands began taking their toll. Shoveling a total of 34,000 pounds of gravel over 2 weeks caused numerous muscle tears in Rodrigo's arms, reducing his upper body strength by 40%. And while working through a continuous 6-day period of simulated rainfall, a strain in his shoulders limited him to 1/3 of his normal range of motion. Rodrigo then suffered a herniated disc from overexerting his back. This made it difficult to push his wheelbarrow even when it was only half full of basalt rock. With the finish in sight, Rodrigo collapsed from exhaustion on the 48th day of construction. However, because he feared he would lose his job and be replaced with a migrant worker, Rodrigo refused to give up. Relying on pure adrenaline, he resumed working just 6 minutes after regaining consciousness. At this point, his years of experience building stadiums for the 2012 World Cup were crucial as he pushed through his pain and on-site injuries. Olympic stadium construction is as much about mental strength as it is physical. Rodrigo managed to complete his work in 1,334 hours, just barely under his 8-week target. While our measurements show he lost 19 pounds and now suffers from cardiac arrhythmia, he earned over $1,700 for his work. But we have yet to pay Rodrigo any of his wages, which is why he's been protesting outside of our offices every day. For The Onion Sportology, I'm Adam Fletcher. Next time on Sportology, we examine how jockeys ride Olympic sprinters to world record times.
A lot of networks report the news as it happens, but only one has the power to report the news before it happens. Through our state-of-the-art wormhole satellite, the Onion News Network Future Channel brings you exclusive news transmissions from the year 2137. Because to stay ahead in today's world, you need to know what's going to happen in tomorrow's.
Here it goes again. Government contractors announced today that construction on the Omega-12 particle accelerator, which will destroy all life on Earth and finally bring an end to humanity's suffering, is facing much delays. The Omega-12 is now 3 years behind schedule and like $800 trillion over budget. Today's holdup, which is being blamed on late helium shipments, will set the project back 6 months. At a news talk this morning, the program's boss ruler responded to criticalisms about the delay.
Pushing back the death date is the only realistic way to make sure that when the machine is turned on, that we will all be atomized.
The Omega-12 project, originally presented by Little Congress in 2119 as a sweet solution to the problem of continual life on our wretched planet, was met originally with widespread popular approval. But today, citizens are expressing their frustration at Onion News Network feedback zones all over the place.
It's frustrating, Every day the government keeps saying, we're all going to die, we're all going to die, and then it not happens. If I could remove my obedience chip, I'd just kill myself.
I didn't care about the cost because I thought we'd all be dead. But now we're paying $1 million a week for this project and we're still alive. This is why I don't pay to vote.
I'm a little better off because at least I have this baby to sell. But I still want the world gone.
Today's delay is only the latest in a rope of problems that have plagued the Omega-12 project since its fucking inception. Meanwhile, criticalism is piling up near President Performance H. Wilson, who was voted into office for his 6th term primarily because he promised to kill us all.
You don't need a bunch of empty promises! You need to die! Do you want to die? I can't hear you! Do you want to die?
Wilson's approval ratings have gone down steadily since that first delay, accepting a small rise when he personally murdered 7,000 people with a hatchet. And government watchdog group Citizens for Leadership recently named Omega-12 as the worst managed government program, surpassing even the ill-fated Mississippi Fire Dam and the never-completed South Florida Relandification Program. So, to be continued waiting. For all the latest on the end of the world, keep looking at the Onion News Network. Till then, sustenance to you. News for real. A new poll finds most people wish dinosaurs were still extinct. Remain motionless to be informed. News out of the Middle East multicultural battle zone. Violence reamed the Gaza Strip today as fighting broke out between the one remaining Palestinian and the one remaining Israeli. The struggle over the Gaza Strip, which began long before the burn down, has stolen the lives of more than 99% of the region's inhabitants. Here is what the news satellite showed us this morning. The violence began when the Israeli army Lev Rosen entered the Gaza Strip and began building a permashed on the disputed land. The Israeli was forced back over the border after suffering a sprained ankle and a bleeding nose at the hands of the Palestinian army Amjad Olrud. Even after the retreat, the Palestinian bombarded Israel with rocks and empty fire ray cartridges for near 2 hours. One Israeli soldier was injured in today's fight. At a press conference in front of the governmental hovel today, the Palestinian president condemned the Israelis' incursion.
ردة فعل فلسطين ستقوم قاسية وهذا سيدفع التمام حاليا هذا انتهى.
The Israeli responded by hollering right back at him.
אם הוא מתכוון לדפוק לי את האוהל, איך שם ויזיין לו את האוהל. אני לא אנהל משא ומתן עם טרוריסט.
We go now to Onion News Network war correspondent Vitamin Daniels, full live, just outside the battle zone. How it do, Vitamin?
What it is, Esty, they were celebrating in the street of Palestine following the successful defensive. But straight moments ago, the Israeli launched another attack and pushed the Palestinian to the edge of the Gaza Strip.
But Syria recently came out with a statement backing the Palestinian and refusing to acknowledge the existence of Rosen.
Yes, Syria has been a friend country for some time. The 6 Minutes War from last year pitted the entire nation of Syria against Rosen, but he beat them back with a broken bottle.
But after losing 66% of its troops to pneumonia last year, many people thought Israel was finally prepped to end the conflict.
Full truth. But even during the ceasefire, there has been sparring. Last week, an edible cat wandered into the disputed zone. Both men laid claim to it, resulting in a prolonged shouting match between the two sides. And today, Israel renewed its pledge to build a barrier between the two nations, a plan that has widespread support among the Israeli.
But the border wall, the border moat, the border plasmote, and the border photonic crystal laser shield did not stop the two sides from fighting.
Full conveyance, but Israel's latest plan is to build a 30-foot-high wall directly around Olrud while he's asleep.
Fuck chance of that.
Most international observers believe the Palestinian army will just climb out.
Well, thank you, Vitamin. I love you.
Love you.
Egypt offered to hold talks, but both sides rejected the offer, suspecting it was a trap by the Egyptian Spider King to ensnare them in webbing and drink their blood. Every word I have said here is true. More news was not possible. Body news now. The Major Surgeon General has issued a warning against diets high in fat people. Think stop to halt download.
Roll up this news. Hordes from across the Indiana Grimlands descended today on the Capitol to protest the possible legalization of gay marriage in what remains of their state. As lawmakers debated the fucking bill this morning, protesters chilled it out in the Free Speech Square to voice their opposition, some having traveled over 60 miles by sewage canal barge to shout there. The protest was conjured by a group called the Remaining Families Coalition.
If we allow gays to marry, God will punish us even worse than he already has. We have to oppose this legislation, not just for our own sake, sake, but for the sake of America's packs of feral children.
An Onion News Network poll shows 64% of Grimlanders not burned to death or rendered mute by radiation oppose the bill, cranking the issue as more important to them than detoxifying food supplies or confining wolf mutants to the wastelands.
If I could spawn a child that's not stillborn, I don't want him growing up in a world where two men can marry.
If the Grim legislature fertilizes this law, what would be next? Men marry